Most folks in the little frontier town of Red Valley thought they already knew every secret tucked between those wine-cut cliffs and lonely pine ridges. But when a quiet ranch girl named Leela May inherited her grandmother's tiny full stable and mountain cabin, the whole town held its breath. That house had stood for nearly 70 years, perched on a ledge where the clouds touched the roof and the coyotes sang at night. Everyone assumed it held nothing more than old saddles, dusty quilts, and memories too brittle to touch. But the moment Leela May opened that door, the air shifted. Something hidden for generations waited inside. Something her grandmother guarded with her life. And what she found didn't just shake her. It rattled every soul in Red Valley, stirred old rivalries, reopened buried crimes, and revealed a truth that changed how the whole West remembered a legend. What kind of secret could bring an entire town to its knees? And why was Leela May the one chosen to uncover it? If you enjoy deep Wild West mysteries, rancher life stories, and frontier legends that still echo today, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share. It helps grow our WestTales As A Down community and keeps these stories riding strong across the prairie. The storm rolled in just as Leela May Hart reached the foot of Sandpine Ridge, the place where her grandmother's mountain house clung to the hillside, like it had been carved straight from bone. The sky hung low and bruised, the kind of western sky that made even seasoned ranch hands mutter a quiet prayer. But Leela didn't turn back. She couldn't, not after everything that had happened. Most people in Red Valley still called her the Full Girl, a name she'd earned years ago for spending more time nursing sick colts than playing with kids her age. Her grandmother, Miss Ada Hart, taught her everything she knew. Ada was tough, weather-beaten, and sharp-eyed all the way into her 80s. Folks swore she could predict a storm just by watching how the dust sat on the fence rails. But in her final months, she grew quiet, cagey. She told Leela things she never shared with another soul, things that didn't make sense at the time. "You'll understand when you get up there," Ada whispered in her hospital bed. "The house knows who it belongs to. The Folds do too." At the time, Leela chalked it up to fading memory, the kind that twists dreams into puzzles. But as she stepped off her horse and stared up at the cabin, she felt that phrase looping back into her mind. The house knows. Her boots sank into the wet earth as she climbed the narrow path. Pine needles stuck to her coat, and the wind snapped at her head like it wanted to peel the past off her shoulders. She paused when the first shape came into view. The old folding stable. It was tiny, barely big enough for 2 mares and a couple of little ones, built from hand-cut logs that still held the scent of cedar. The door hung open. She froze. Ada never left that door open. Not for weather, not for visitors, not for anything. Leela stepped closer, feeling her breath catch in her throat. Inside, the stable looked the same as she remembered. Clean, ordered. Bales stacked tight, water trough scrubbed, tack hanging in neat rows, almost like her grandmother had tended it just yesterday. But the air felt wrong, too still, too expectant. Her voice shook the silence. "Hello, anyone here?" Only the wind answered. She walked through, and tiny hoofprints caught her eye, fresh ones, full-sized. Except Ada hadn't kept young stock for years. Her herd dwindled in her final decade, and the last mare died 6 months ago. So where did these little prints come from? She followed them to the far stall. The bedding was flat and warm, as if something had slept there minutes earlier. Leela rested her hand on the wood. It trembled slightly beneath her palm. Or maybe she was trembling. She couldn't be sure. "You're imagining things," she whispered. "Mountain air makes folks jumpy." But the unease followed her as she stepped back outside. The cabin sat another 30 yards up the slope, a squat, weathered structure with stone steps and a blue-painted door Ada insisted on refreshing every spring. Leela climbed those steps slowly. She almost expected her grandmother to swing the door open and scold her for tracking mud across the porch. Instead, she found a heavy brass key taped to the frame. Her name was written in Ada's handwriting. A rare chill slipped down her back. Ada could barely hold a pen in her last days, yet the writing was steady, firm. She unlocked the door. The hinges groaned like they hadn't been ouched in years, and the scent of old pine hit her first. Then dust, then something faintly sweet, almost like lavender. The cabin interior looked nearly untouched. The braided rug, the cast iron stove, the wooden rocker beside the window. A soft layer of dust suggested no one had stepped inside for some time. But Leela noticed something others wouldn't. The chairs had been moved slightly, subtly. Someone had been here, and whoever it was had tried not to leave a trace. Her pulse hammered. She scanned the room carefully. No footprints, no overturned items, no signs of a break-in. Yet the air still carried that same charged feeling she sensed in the stable, like the house was waiting for her.
The floorboards creaked as she walked. She passed the kitchen table and stopped beside her grandmother's writing desk. Lila hesitated, then pulled the drawer. Inside lay a folded piece of paper and a silver locket tied with a strip of leather. Her name again. She opened the letter. Lila girl. If you are reading this, then the house has chosen you the way it once chose me. There are things I kept hidden to protect more than just myself. To protect the town. To protect you. Do not be afraid of what you find. Follow the signs. Trust the foals. They know the truth even when people won't. You will see soon enough. Love. Grandma Ada. Lila sank onto the edge of the bed. The letter wasn't long, yet it punched the breath from her lungs. What truth could a foal possibly know? And what was the house choosing her for? The locket felt heavy in her hand, far heavier than any piece of jewelry had a right to. She thumbed it open and gasped. Inside wasn't a photo. It was a tiny drawing, hand-sketched and shockingly detailed. It showed the mountain ridge from above, but with a symbol carved into one section of rock. A mark she'd never seen on any map. Why didn't she tell me? Lila whispered. Outside something moved. A soft scuff, like a hoof sliding across dirt. She bolted to the window. Nothing. Only the tree leaves shifting in the wind. But she knew what she heard. And it wasn't wind. She grabbed her coat and stepped onto the porch. The storm clouds had darkened, wrapping the ridge in cold shadow. She scanned the clearing, her heart pounding hard enough to shake her ribs. Then she saw it. A small silhouette stood near the stable, barely visible in the dimming light. Full-sized. Still. Watching her. Lila blinked. The silhouette vanished. She descended the steps without thinking. Her boots hit the ground fast, her breath forming little clouds in the air. When she reached the stable again, the door was closed. She hadn't closed it. She pushed it open. An object lay on the floor that hadn't been there minutes earlier, a small, carved wooden horse. Old. Worn. And marked with the same symbol she'd seen in the locket's drawing. Lila backed up slowly, clutching the carving. Her voice trembled. What did you hide, Grandma? And why am I the one who has to find it? The house didn't answer. The mountain didn't whisper back. But something unseen stirred, as if the whole ridge had been waiting for her return. And whatever lay buried in those cliffs was ready to rise. Night fell fast on Sandpine Ridge, the kind of night that felt heavier than the cold itself. Lila May stood inside the stable with the carved wooden horse still warm from her grip. Thunder rolled across the mountains like distant gunfire, and for a long moment she simply listened, half expecting that strange silhouette to appear again in the darkness. Her grandmother's letter gnawed at her thoughts. Trust the foals. They know the truth. It sounded poetic in a way, but Ada Hart was never one for poetry. If Ada wrote something, she meant every word with the kind of precision you'd expect from a woman who could break a wild Mustang with a single look. Lila slipped the carving into her coat and walked back toward the cabin. She needed light. She needed clarity. But more than anything else, she needed answers buried somewhere inside this mountain house. Wind slammed the door behind her as she stepped inside. She lit a lantern, letting its warm glow spill across the dust-covered floorboards. Something about the room felt different now. Not threatening, exactly. Just poised. Like it was waiting for her to notice what she had overlooked. And she realized quickly that she had overlooked something big. A faint draft. Cold air brushing her ankles. But the windows were shut, the chimney sealed, and the door firmly closed. Lila crouched, lantern in hand, and traced the airflow to the corner behind her grandmother's rocker. The floorboard there didn't sit flush. It rose barely half an inch higher than the rest. Her heart started to pound. Ada never left anything out of order. Not a saddle, not a blanket, not a floorboard. Lila wedged her fingers under the edge and lifted. The board popped up with surprising ease, revealing a hollow space beneath the floor. Her lantern revealed more carvings inside, symbols etched into the wood. The same symbol from the locket. The same symbol burned into the wood in full. This wasn't a loose board. It was a marker. Inside the compartment lay a small leather-bound journal, a metal key unlike any she'd seen, and a rolled piece of parchment tied with horsehair. She reached for the journal first. The cover felt soft, worn by decades of handling. When she opened it, Ada's handwriting covered the first page. To whoever follows these signs, you will find danger here, but also truth. The kind that can set things right, if you're strong enough to carry it. Lila's pulse tightened. This no longer felt like a simple inheritance. It felt like a mission. One her grandmother had prepared for her, but never explained. She scanned further. Notes filled the pages, sketching out strange entries. Night hooves again. Foals not seen, only heard. Someone is watching from the canyon edge. The mark on the ridge is older than the town itself. They will come looking when they realize I didn't destroy the evidence. Keep Lila away until she's ready. Lila's stomach nodded. People? Evidence? And the idea that her grandmother had been actively hiding something from the town made her chest tighten with a complicated swirl of guilt and anger. She unrolled the parchment next. A map. Hand-drawn. Showing the ridge from the cabin all the way up to a split rock formation called Widow's Spine. But Ada had added something no official map showed, a tunnel opening halfway up the ridge. Circled in red. Beneath it just 2 words. Secret room. She exhaled slowly, letting the weight of the discovery sink in. The last item in the compartment was the metal key. Not like a door key. More like something used for unlocking a chest or a mechanism. The handle was shaped like a horse's head, the mouth holding a tiny engraved number. 17. 17. She whispered it aloud, wondering if it meant anything. A loud crack split the silence. Lila jerked upright, lantern swinging wildly. The noise had come from outside. Close. Too close. Her heart rattled against her ribs as she stepped toward the window. A figure stood near the treeline. Not a foal. Not an animal at all. It was a man. Tall. Coat whipping in the wind. Staring toward the cabin with his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. Lila froze. The lantern flickered. Thunder rolled across the sky again. And when she blinked, the man was gone. Cold dread spilled through her chest. Someone was out there. Watching. Waiting. She backed away from the window, gripping the key like a weapon. She needed answers, and whatever lay inside that hidden room on Widow's Spine had to be connected to all of this. Ada would leave a map to something harmless. And if people were coming for whatever she had protected, Lila couldn't sit here in the dark waiting for them. She returned the journal and parchment to the compartment, and secured the floorboard again. But she slipped the key into her pocket. Whatever happened next, she was taking that. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the cabin in white. Lila turned slowly, scanning the room for any other signs she had missed. Her gaze landed on a painting above the hearth. She had seen it 1,000 times as a child, a mare standing protectively over her foal, painted by Ada herself. But something now drew her attention that she had never noticed. The mare's shadow wasn't painted like a normal shadow. It was shaped oddly. Angular. Symbolic. The same symbol. Her throat tightened. She lifted the picture off the wall. Behind it, carved into the log panel, was a message, maybe older than the cabin itself. The truth is in the rock. Beneath it, only the chosen foe can guide the way. She stumbled back a step, mind swirling with questions. Chosen foe? Guide the way? It made no sense. But then she remembered the hoofprints in the stable. The warm bedding. The silhouette watching her in the dusk. Either she was losing her grip, or she had stepped into something far bigger than superstition. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she packed her gear, rope, lantern, notebook, canteen, and the mysterious key. Whenever she glanced at the stable through the window, she felt eyes watching her. Not threatening, but encouraging. Protective. Just before dawn, she saddled her horse. The air was sharp, frost clinging to the pines. The first blue light of morning painted the ridge, and the path to Widow's Spine stared back at her like it had been waiting for decades. Halfway up the trail, her horse stopped cold. Ears perked. Tail stiff. Breathing heavy. Lila leaned forward. "Easy, girl. What do you see?" A soft nicker answered. But it didn't come from her horse. A tiny foal stood ahead on the path. Pale gray, almost silver in the early light. It watched her with calm, deep eyes that felt much too knowing for such a young creature. Lila's breath caught. "You can't be real," she whispered. The foal turned and walked up the trail. Not away from her. Leading her. Guiding her. Lila swallowed hard, tightened her grip on the reins, and followed. By the time she reached the split rock formation of Widow's Spine, the foal had vanished again. But she didn't need it now. The map had been right. Behind a cluster of boulders, hidden by tangled brush, was a narrow wooden door built directly into the rock face. Old, weather-worn, and marked with the same carved symbol. Lila pulled the key from her coat. Her hands shook as she inserted it into the metal slot embedded in the stone. A click echoed through the canyon. The door opened inward. A cold, hollow breath of air escaped from the darkness inside, carrying the scent of stone, dust, and something else. Something metallic. Something ancient. Something her grandmother had protected with her life. Lila stepped forward, lantern raised high. Whatever lay inside this secret room. It was the reason the town had been whispering for 70 years. And now, she was the only one who could face it. The tunnel swallowed Lila May in an instant. The moment she stepped through the wooden doorway, the mountain seemed to inhale, drawing her into its chest. Her lantern flickered against the rock walls, revealing narrow passageways carved by human hands rather than nature. The air was colder in here. Still. As if untouched for decades. Her boots scuffed along the stone floor, echoing deeper than seemed possible. The key, still warm from the lock, hung from her fingers like a lifeline. "This is what you hid, Grandma?" she whispered. The tunnel angled downward, forcing her to duck beneath jagged rock shelves. Old timbers reinforced the walls, many cracked with age but still holding. She brushed her fingers over one of them and felt the faint marks of a knife carving. More symbols. Repeated along the beam like warnings, or directions. After 10 minutes, the tunnel widened into a chamber. Lila stepped inside and froze. This wasn't just a room. It was a vault. Wooden crates lined the walls, sealed with iron bands. A table sat in the center, covered in yellowed papers, tools, and what looked like old surveying equipment. A lantern hung from a hook in the ceiling, miraculously intact, as if someone had left it only days earlier. Her breath fogged in the cold air as she moved toward the table. She traced the edge with her hand and found a name engraved lightly into the wood. A. Hart. E. Calderon. Ada Hart's name. And Elias Calderon. The name hit Lila like a hammer. Elias hadn't been spoken aloud in Red Valley for almost 60 years, not since he'd been labeled an outlaw, blamed for a land theft scandal that nearly tore the town apart. The story went that he stole land documents, vanished money, and betrayed the people who trusted him. The town put a bounty on him, though he was never found. But Lila had grown up hearing a different version from her grandmother, whispered stories. Elias wasn't a criminal. He was framed. Lila's fingers trembled as she touched the engraving. What was Elias doing inside this secret room? She unfolded the first paper on the table. It wasn't a letter. It was a blueprint. A blueprint of Red Valley. But not the way it looked now. The way it looked 80 years ago. Different borders. Different ownership lines. Entire parcels shaded in red. A signature at the bottom. E. Calderon, Deputy Surveyor, Territory Office. Lila's breath caught. Elias wasn't a thief. He was the town's official land surveyor. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. People aren't always whose stories make them out to be. She lifted another document. This one thicker, sealed in wax. She cracked the seal and unfolded a stack of land deeds with handwritten notes in the margins. Fraudulent transfer. Signed under duress. Forgery suspected. Notify H. Ada Hart. Her grandmother had been part of this. Not just a witness, an investigator. Lila stepped back, lantern shaking. Ada wasn't hiding a treasure. She was hiding the truth behind the biggest lie Red Valley ever accepted. Thunder cracked outside the mountain, shaking dust from the ceiling. Lila felt the tremor rumble through her bones. Somewhere deeper in the cave, another sound followed. A metallic groan. Then silence. She swallowed hard and turned toward the second half of the vault. A wooden chest sat against the far wall. Heavy. Iron-bound. Locked with a mechanism that had waited decades for the right key. Her grandmother's key. Lila approached the chest, pressed the key into the rusted slot, and twisted. The lock surrendered. Inside, she found leather folders, each carefully labeled in Ada's precise handwriting. Folder 1, the meeting at Widow's Spine. Folder 2, the fake claim. Folder 3, the day Elias disappeared. Folder 4, what the town must never know. Folder 5, the full. Her breath hitched. The full? She grabbed folder 4 first. Inside were pages of witness statements Ada had gathered. Testimonies from townsfolk long dead now. Every page pointed to one undeniable fact. Elias Calderon hadn't forged any documents. He had uncovered the forgery committed by 3 powerful ranchers who wanted to expand their land by stealing territory from small homesteaders. When Elias tried to expose them, they turned the entire town against him and ordered his arrest. Ada had helped him escape. Ada had hidden the evidence. Ada had kept the truth locked away in this mountain, because the 3 ranchers, now considered the founding fathers of Red Valley, had grandsons and great-grandsons still running the town. Lila's stomach twisted. This wasn't just scandal. This was the town's legacy built on a lie. She opened folder 5 next, curious and afraid. Inside was a drawing. A foal. A pale gray foal with distinct markings on its forehead. Lila's pulse surged. She recognized it instantly. It was the same foal she saw on the trail. Beneath the drawing was a short paragraph in Ada's hand. The foal was there the night Elias vanished. It led him to the split rock. The old tales say the mountain keeps guardians, wild foals born only when the truth must rise again. Some say it's superstition. I say it's the only reason Elias survived. Lila stumbled back. A guardian? A foal tied to the mountain's secrets? Before she could fully process the words, she noticed something else lying at the bottom of the chest. A small metal badge. Dusty. Dented. But unmistakable. Deputy's badge. Elias Calderon's badge. Tears stung her eyes. The outlaw the town hated had been law enforcement trying to stop corruption. But why had Ada never revealed this? Why keep it hidden for so long? Footsteps echoed in the tunnel. Soft. Slow. Approaching. Lila whipped around, lantern high. Who's there? Silence. Then a voice drifted from the darkness. A man's voice. Calm. Cold. You shouldn't have opened that chest, Lila May. Her breath froze in her throat. She couldn't see him yet, but his silhouette materialized slowly in the tunnel's glow. A tall man. The same one she saw near the tree line the night before. He stepped forward, revealing a sheriff's star pinned to his coat. Sheriff Radisson. Descendant of Mitch Radisson, one of the very ranchers Ada's documents accused. His eyes narrowed on the vault. On the chest. On the evidence scattered across the table. So it's true, he muttered. The old woman kept everything. Lila backed toward the chest. Stay where you are. He raised an eyebrow. And what? You'll expose the whole town? Destroy legacies? You think anyone will believe the granddaughter of a hermit over the families who built Red Valley? I have the documents, she snapped. He smiled. A slow, unsettling smile. And I have the authority to bury them. Just like my grandfather buried the truth the first time. Her skin crawled. You're not getting any of this, she said. Oh, he replied softly. I already have. He nodded behind her. Before she could turn, a hand grabbed her shoulder. Hard. Forceful. She gasped, lantern swinging. The chamber went black. A rough sack dropped over her head. Everything spun. Her grandmother had warned her. People would come looking once they realized the evidence wasn't destroyed. And now they had. The trail leading from the canyon floor to the high western ridge twisted like an old rope, frayed by wind and sun. Lila May guided Ember carefully, letting the mare pick her way across loose shale. The storm clouds had finally drifted east, leaving the air washed clean, sharp with the scent of wet sage. The world felt reset, as if the land itself knew the truth was about to break free after decades of forced silence. She kept replaying the sheriff's words from the night before. Your grandmother didn't run with bandits. She was trying to stop one. And the worn, leather-bound journal she'd found in the cabin's secret panel confirmed every whispered rumor. The journal's last entry pointed to one final location, the Divide. Now she approached it, heart beating like a drum under her coat. The Divide wasn't a single place. It was a knife-edged crest where two valleys split and dropped into different watersheds. Locals claimed it was cursed ground, a place where outlaws had stolen cattle and vanished into Colorado territory. Her grandmother's handwriting said otherwise. It was where the truth had been buried. Wind screamed over the ridge, tugging Lila May's hat. She pulled Ember to a stop near a cluster of deadfall pines. From up here, Red Valley lay far below, small as a toy town, unaware of the moment building above it. Easy, girl, she whispered. She slid from the saddle and crouched low against the rocks. The journal map matched the land perfectly, the bent pine, the split boulder, the narrow seam in the cliff. A hiding place. She brushed aside pine needles and loose stones. Beneath them, buried under decades of dust, sat an old iron strongbox. Heavy, cold, locked by a rusted clasp. Her breath caught. This was it. This was the weight her grandmother had carried alone. Lila May pried at the clasp until it snapped. The lid creaked open with a metallic groan that echoed across the ridge like a ghost waking up. Inside were bundles of papers wrapped in oilskin. Deeds. Land claims. Surveyor reports stamped by the Federal Land Office. And at the very bottom, a handwritten confession signed by the outlaw everyone believed her grandmother had loved and protected, Jace Harrow. The name alone sent a chill through her spine. He'd been the devil of Red Valley lore, a horse thief, a killer, a man who burned ranches for sport. But the journal and this confession painted a different picture. Jace Harrow had been part of a land fraud ring. He and two others planned to seize the entire Western Valley by forging deeds, pushing settlers off, and killing anyone who resisted. When Lila May's grandmother, Clara, uncovered their scheme, she wasn't an accomplice. She was a whistleblower. The final page explained everything. Clara saved my life when I was ambushed by my own partners. I gave her these documents to clear her name. If the truth ever matters more than my legend, she will know where to find them. Lila May closed her eyes, overwhelmed. This cleared her grandmother. This rewrote the entire county's understanding of the past. But before she could seal the box again, a sound cracked behind her. A boot on gravel. She spun, heart lurching. Sheriff Amos stood 10 paces away, his coat snapping in the wind. His hand hovered near his holster, not yet threatening, but close enough to warn her. "Thought I'd find you up here," he said. His tone was flat, unreadable. She straightened. "You followed me." "Had to. Couldn't let you wander into something dangerous." "Dangerous like what?" The sheriff's eyes slid to the open box. Regret flickered in them. A heavy silence stretched between them until he finally sighed. "My father," he said. "Your father?" Lila demanded. He nodded slowly. "My father was one of Harrow's partners. He helped forge the deeds. He helped chase folks out of the West Valley. Folks who never knew why their cattle vanished. Folks who blamed Clara because a convenient story kept things quiet." Lila's pulse hammered. "And you knew?" "I knew enough. Enough that when your grandmother died, I prayed the past would die with her." Her stomach dropped. "So you were trying to stop me?" "I just wanted Red Valley left in peace," he said. "You dig up something like this, you tear the whole place apart. Families get destroyed. Reputations get ruined. People will look at me different too." "Good," she said sharply. "The truth matters." The sheriff stepped closer, boots crunching on stone. "You're a good woman, Lila May. Smart like your grandmother. But sometimes the truth burns more than it heals." He nodded at the strongbox. "Give it to me." She didn't move. Ember snorted anxiously behind her. The sheriff's jaw clenched. "Don't make this harder." Lila May braced herself. She'd spent years avoiding conflict, keeping her life quiet and small. But now her grandmother's legacy rested in her hands. The entire valley's true history leaned on a choice. She grabbed the box, lifted it in both arms, and spoke firmly. "No." The sheriff cursed under his breath. "I can't let you ride down with that." "What are you going to do?" she said, stepping backward toward Ember. "Shoot me? Like your father shot anyone who got in his way?" He flinched as if struck. The wind howled harder. A storm seemed to build inside the sheriff, anger and shame crashing together. But then his shoulders sagged. "Clara saved my father once," he said quietly. "He never deserved it. I guess I owe her a debt too." He looked away, then walked to the cliff's edge. "Take it," he said. "Tell the town. They'll hate me for a while, but the truth should stand." Lila May blinked, stunned by the crack in his resolve. The sheriff turned back, eyes tired. "Go. Before I change my mind." She didn't hesitate. She mounted Ember, secured the strongbox to the saddle, and nudged the mare down the trail. She didn't look back until she reached the lower switchback. When she did, the sheriff was still standing on the ridge, staring out across the valley, wrestling with the ghost of his father. By late afternoon, Red Valley gathered in the old meeting hall as Lila May laid the papers across the long oak table. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some gasped. Some cried. Others cursed Harrow's name for the first time with clarity. When she finished explaining, the room was silent except for the creak of wooden chairs. Old Mrs. Daltrey whispered, "Your grandmother was a hero." Lila May swallowed hard. "She was just trying to do right." The town council voted unanimously to restore Clara's name, correct the historical record, and return the stolen Western Valley lands to the family's wrong decades ago. A few folks walked out angry, but most stayed, listening with sober respect. As the sun dipped behind the peaks, Lila May stepped outside. The evening breeze was soft, warm with promise. Ember nudged her shoulder as if sensing the weight that had lifted. "You were right, Grandma," she whispered. "Secrets don't protect anything. Truth does." The bell tower chimed. Down the street, lanterns flickered to life. Red Valley, changed forever, settled into a new chapter. And for the first time since she arrived, Lila May felt she belonged here. Not just as Clara's granddaughter, but as the woman who carried the last piece of the story the West needed to hear. The past was no longer a burden. It was a beginning.